Ross. How are you this Thursday?
Thank you so much, Asanda. Thank you so much for having me. I'm very well, thank you. I hope you are too.
We are well, thank you so much. Why is the International Day of the Disappeared such an important day for the International Committee of the Red Cross and families of the missing?
Thank you so much for the question. The International Day of the Disappeared is a global day which is being commemorated every year on the 30th of August. And it started to become commemorated since the adoption of the International Convention for the Protection of All Persons from Enforced Disappearance. Now, for the ICRC and the movement of the ICRC, which forms part of the International Committee of the Red Cross, the National Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies, as well as the International Federation of the Red Cross, we have many decades of experience with respect to missing persons and their families and providing humanitarian assistance to families searching for a missing relative. So it is definitely a day to commemorate the missing from armed conflict, migration, other situations of violence. And it is a day to stand in solidarity with the families to know that the hurt that they feel from having a missing relative does not go unnoticed.
Can you give us a sense of the scale of the issue globally as well as here in the region?
Yes, certainly. So the ICRC's Family Links Network have reported that at the end of 2024, the global missing persons caseload is at around about 284,000 people worldwide. Now, it's obviously very difficult to confirm accurate statistics with respect to missing persons due to the fact that there are many obstacles that families face when they need to go and report missing relatives. And this is for a variety of reasons. One of them being that many times people lack financial resources to access state services, for instance, accessing to police services, and also in rural settings where people might not necessarily be well informed or aware of the mechanisms in place within the state system to go and report a missing person. There is also, across the board, there are also many times the misassumption that there is some kind of a waiting period before a person can be reported missing, which is just absolutely not the case. And it is important to create awareness amongst communities that having to report a missing person needs to be done immediately once a person becomes aware that a person has gone missing. Because the longer a person waits to report a missing person, the more dangerous it becomes for the missing persons themselves.
What are the faces of those missing or disappeared persons according to what you've seen?
The phases.
Faces, the type of people. Is it more women? Is it more girls? Is it more of the young people? Is it more of the black poorer communities in rural areas?
So it depends definitely on the circumstances surrounding the disappearance, because as I mentioned before, people go missing in various contexts.
Mm-hmm.
In armed conflict specifically, soldiers go missing very much often, and then the demographic will be males, because the majority of soldiers in armed conflict are males. Then also with respect to disappearances in the context of migration, when people go missing, when they move cross-border, this is also the case that the majority of men go missing cross-border. But the problem is also the fact that females, the wives, the mothers of those who go missing, they are the ones that bears the burden the most, because they are the ones that are needing information. And many oftentimes it is also the breadwinner of the family that go missing. For instance, in the context of migration, when they migrate to different countries in search for better economic opportunities, and then needing to send funds to families across borders in different countries. So it's there's no hard or fast rule. It does affect everyone across the board, but more often than not, females are disproportionately affected by the adverse effects of having a missing relative.
Let's talk about the role then of the ICRC as well as partners like the South African Red Cross in playing in terms of supporting families of the disappeared.
Thank you so much for that. So the ICRC's mandate is grounded in the Geneva Conventions and their additional protocols. And as I mentioned before, the ICRC forms part of a movement which also includes the National Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies, as well as the International Federation of the Red Cross. Now, the ICRC has many services that they do provide to assist families with facilitating the search for missing persons. And we also have activities, specifically the National Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies. They have activities around restoring and protecting family links. We also have various activities such as the Red Safe app and Trace the Face, which families can use to register a missing person. And then the national societies in the different countries can also transfer the information of missing persons that have been reported as information as aid. Now, also for the ICRC, the Central Tracing Agency of the ICRC also plays a very important role, specifically in armed conflict, to transfer information of reported missing persons who went missing in the context of armed conflict specifically, to facilitate the information on missing persons, as well as deceased persons in times of armed conflict, to ensure that deceased people also do not become unaccounted for, because that is also a very important aspect of the missing dynamic, is when human remains or deceased persons in times of armed conflict, as well as in migration, if the human remains are not properly managed, documented, and recorded, and the information shared with relevant authorities, then the deceased people can also run the risk of becoming unaccounted for.
What are some of the main challenges in tracing missing peoples and reuniting them with their families? You mentioned that in the first place, people can go missing and families don't have the right know-how in terms of the legal processes on reporting, and also the lack of access to state services. Is there more?
Yes, definitely. So one of the big challenges is also what we find is the lack of safe reporting practices. What we have experienced in the past, and working with vulnerable communities in the humanitarian environment, is that there is certainly sometimes a lack of distrust by families towards the authorities. We've also recognized that sometimes state authorities who are supposed to assist families with the search for their missing relatives, they can be discriminatory or biased towards the people who come towards them to report their missing relatives. For instance, to give an example, when a wife of a missing husband goes to report their missing relative, it's been the case that state authorities or police officials who aren't sensitized around the circumstances of missing people, it's been said, for instance, that your husband will return. He ran away with a different wife, or he's not really missing. You must just wait for a few days, and then they'll come back. So we've seen that there is a stigma that is presented towards people who wish to go and report their missing relative. So we also need to create the awareness around state authorities with respect to the sensitivity around this issue, so that there are safe reporting practices implemented on the ground within police stations and with people who are mandated to investigate missing persons cases.
So, who are the main role players involved in tackling this issue? You mentioned the police or law enforcement there, and besides humanitarian groups like the ICRC, we imagine this is very much a collaborative effort that is needed to make efforts, necessarily successful. And also, are these entities doing enough? Are they aware of the roles that they need to be playing?
Thank you so much for that question. So it's definitely a collaborative effort, and all state actors are involved, specifically law enforcement, but also the health authorities, also the statistic departments, but also internal ministries, for instance, Department of Home Affairs. Each one of these departments play a specific role towards ensuring that missing persons are found, that human remains that remain unidentified or unclaimed are reported, and that accurate statistics on these cases be reported to Stats SA. because statistics and accurate statistics, of course, drives political support and accurate state funding towards these cases, and to support the better implementation of the search mechanisms and investigative mechanisms. I wouldn't say at this point in time that the state authorities are not doing enough, because we at the ICRC do work closely with the state authorities, but sometimes funding is a big issue. Funding really needs to be amped up to support these state authorities to tackle this issue, because it is a very, very dynamic issue.
So, what message would you like to leave with families and communities as the world prepares to mark this day on Saturday? And in what ways should the general public observe this day as well?
Mm. Our general message to families is to say to them that they are not alone, and that the ICRC, as well as the international community, recognizes their plight, and we stand in solidarity with them.
Vaughn, we're going to leave it there. Thanks so much for your time and for the work that you do at the International Crescent of the Red Cross. And thank you for shedding light in this matter. Education is also going to be very key, I guess, as far as the general public is concerned, because you never know. You may be seeing families that seem far away from you grappling with this issue, but it could be any one of us who is affected, as you give us those stats. In fact, that there is no one face. There are many faces, maybe all of us. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, Asanda. Have a good day.
You too. Vaughn Rossouw is legal advisor at the International Committee of the Red Cross, discussing the issue of missing persons and the families that get affected when a loved one disappears. This Saturday, 30 August, will be marking the International Day of the Disappeared.